Kick-ass facts! Pew, 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 pew! Margaret Dixon was an Edinburgh lass who survived being hanged in 1721 for the crime of concealing a pregnancy in the case of a dead child. Maggie separated from her husband and needed to find employment to survive. She took up work as a domestic in a local inn, and the innkeeper's son took a shine to Maggie. Soon she was pregnant. Not wanting to jeopardize her position at work, she concealed the pregnancy from everyone. The child was weak and unhealthy and unfortunately passed a few days after birth. Maggie did not want to get caught, nor was she able to give her child a proper burial, so she decided to place the body of the baby in the nearby River Tweed. The small body was discovered later that day, having washed up further down the river. All suspicion pointed to Maggie, and she was taken back to Edinburgh to be tried for the crime of concealing a pregnancy. After her hanging on September 2nd, 1721, Maggie was pronounced dead at the gallows, and her body was transferred in a wooden coffin. The cheap wooden pauper's coffin she was to be buried in let in air, and combined with the jostling cart on the cobbled streets, it woke her up, much to the horror of her family. The law deemed this as an act of God, bringing Maggie back from the dead and pardoned her crimes. Maggie went on to live a further 40 years, and people called her Half-Hangit Maggie. A young woman in India who lost both her hands in a bus accident received limbs from a darker-skinned male donor. In 2017, she underwent a 13-hour transplant operation performed by a team of 20 surgeons and 16 anesthesiologists. Her transplanted hands came from a 21-year-old man who died in a bicycle crash. Over the next year and a half, physical therapy improved her motor control of her hands and arms, which gradually became leaner, taking on a more feminine shape and the complexion lighter than they were at the time of transplant. The doctors who treated her suspect that her body produces less melanin than her donor's did, which could explain the lightening of her new limbs, and that the muscles adapting to their new host is what made them leaner and more feminine looking. Her surgery was the first double hand transplant performed in Asia, as well as the continent's first intergender limb transplant. In 1818, the United States of America began building a fort near the New York-Quebec border at the northern end of Lake Champlain to defend against invasions from Canada. The British had launched massive invasions of the United States through the lake during the American Revolution and the War of 1812. To prevent that from happening again, President James Madison ordered the fort built. 2 years and $275,000 later, surveyors discovered a problem. The fort was being built on the wrong side of the border. The fort designed to protect the United States from Canada was in Canada. All work stopped, and the fort earned the nickname Fort Blunder. The Ship of Theseus is a thought experiment about whether an object is the same object after having all its original components replaced. If all parts of the ship are replaced over time, is it still the same ship? In 2012, a man named Jason Sadler sold his last name to the company Headsets.com. He legally changed his name to JasonHeadsets.com as part of a marketing campaign for the company. A year later, he decided to pass the name on. My first, middle, and last names are up for sale, so I had to Google a pronunciation key for this next one. Let me get ready. Okay. The Promoshotuthus sulcus is a rare deep-sea squid with a small mouth surrounded by what appear to be teeth. Teeth, mouth, that all sounds perfectly reasonable. However, these teeth are on its eyeballs, not its mouth.